Welcome to the PSID web tutorial on the PSID sample weights. First, let's go over what you can expect to learn. We will start with a brief introduction to weighting in the PSID, followed by an introduction to the longitudinal and cross-sectional weights, and finally, instructions on how to use the weights in analyses using Stata and SAS. Let's start with an introduction to weighting in the PSID. The PSID sample combines the SRC, Survey Research Center, SEO, Survey of Economic Opportunity sample, and occasional immigrant refresher samples. Each of these samples is a probability sample. That is, a sample for which every element in the population has a known, non-zero chance of selection. Because not all families have the same probability of selection, weighting is needed for descriptive statistics to be unbiased. Weighting adjustments are also needed to attempt to compensate for differences in non-response in 1968 and subsequent waves. Weights supplied on PSID data files are designed to compensate for both unequal selection probabilities and differential attrition. When used in analyses, the sample weights map the probability-based sample back to the population, not just in terms of counts, but also in terms of distributions of demographic and socioeconomic attributes. Let's review a simple example of how weights are constructed. Suppose there is a population of 1,000 red and white beads. 250 are red, and 750 are white. Now suppose we select a sample of 100 beads, but want equal numbers of each color. So we select 50 red beads and 50 white beads. Red beads in our sample have a probability of being selected of 50 out of 250, and white beads have a probability of 50 over 750. The sample weight is equal to 1 over the probability of selection. So in this example, each red bead would have a weight of 250 divided by 50, or 5, and each white bead would have a weight of 750 divided by 50, or 15. Applying these sample selection weights in analyses readjust the sample so that each individual contributes to sample estimates in proportion to their representation in the population from which they are drawn. Weighting not only adjusts for unequal probabilities of selection, but can also be used to adjust for non-response or sample attrition. In addition, weights can be post-stratified to an external source in order to ensure counts for particular groups align with the gold standard. PSID adjusts its weights for non-response on a regular basis and post-stratifies its cross-sectional weights to the current population survey. Now that we've provided a brief introduction to weighting in the PSID, let's review in more detail PSID's longitudinal and cross-sectional weights. PSID creates two main types of weights, a longitudinal weight and a cross-sectional weight. The longitudinal weights are useful for studying changes within families and individuals over time. Though the longitudinal weights do not scale to U.S. population counts, a scale factor can be calculated to produce weighted counts that match the population. In recent waves, the scale factor has been approximately 700, but the exact number varies from wave to wave. The cross-sectional weights are useful for estimating characteristics of individuals in a given year, and they produce weighted counts that closely align with the March current population survey. In addition, for supplemental studies, supplement-specific weights are also provided. For example, the Child Development Supplement has a set of weights to use with those data, and the Disability and Use of Time Supplement has several sets of weights. We recommend that you consult the documentation to learn more about supplement-specific weights, as well as the specific details of the core sample weight construction. The longitudinal weights are available for all waves since 1968. There are two sets of longitudinal weights, one set for individuals and the other for families. Only individuals who are considered sample members receive longitudinal weights. Recall, a sample member is an original PSID family member, someone added in an immigrant refresher, or someone born to a sample member or immigrant refresher sample member. Other individuals who have joined PSID families will have a value of 0 for their longitudinal weight. Newborn sample members receive a weight that is equal to the average of all family members. Attrition adjustments that account for non-response are introduced periodically. The longitudinal family weights are the average of the longitudinal individual weights for all family members, including weights with values of 0 for non-sample family members. Post-stratification adjustments are not routinely included in constructing the longitudinal weights. The cross-sectional weights are available for waves 1997 through the current wave. Both sample and non-sample members receive cross-sectional weights. Note that cross-sectional family weights are not provided. The individual cross-sectional weights are derived from the family longitudinal weights, using what is called the fair shares method. That is, each individual is given an equal fraction of the longitudinal family weight. The cross-sectional weights are post-stratified each wave to the current population survey's March supplement by age group, sex, race of heteroreference person, and region totals. Note that as of 2017, the term reference person has replaced head. Please see the video tutorial Introduction to the PSID for more information about this change. Weights and other sample design adjustments can be applied to most analyses using widely available software. We will discuss examples in Stata and SAS. In order to adjust point estimates and standard error estimates for the complex survey design of PSID, you must indicate weighting, strata, and cluster variables. The sampling error stratum and sampling error cluster variables are summary level variables ER31996 and ER31997. If you are using Stata to analyze your data, you may want to use the SVY or survey commands. SVY set defines the sample design variables. Any SVY or survey command issued after this statement will incorporate the survey set design specifications. In SAS, you need to specify the design variables in every command, along with the proc survey syntax. We would like to thank Steve Haringa from the University of Michigan's Institute for Social Research for his assistance with the content of this tutorial. This web tutorial was produced by Nora Insalera and Vicki Friedman in collaboration with the Michigan Center on the Demography of Aging with funding from the National Institute on Aging. This ends the web tutorial on PSID sample weights. Comments and questions may be sent to psidhelp@umich.edu.